You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
And so for the second straight season, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. It's time for the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, the offseason Rosie officially here. How are we on this Wednesday?
I know there's no more watching hockey left to be done. Kind of sad, bittersweet, but I do enjoy watching that trophy getting lifted. Every year, it's always kind of special to me, and I think everyone else who enjoys this game. It is just a trophy that's just, I don't know, the proportions or something, or just seeing it is absolutely perfect. And the way they pass it around and lift it above their head, it's just like nothing else. I love it, but when it's over, it's over. And now we got to watch baseball highlights for the rest of the goddamn summer, which drives me nuts.
Goosebumps, man. And it's sort of funny too. Like the Panthers are even pro when they win the Stanley Cup. That was so subdued. I felt the celebration last night compared to last year, where it's like, oh, it's my turn to raise Lord Stanley. Here we go. We've done this before. We're going to elbow room. We're going to the locker room next. It was so orchestrated, so organized, and it was very, very subdued. And I think as one team showed up, how many times have we seen that? We talked about this yesterday. Your signature Florida Panthers effort, they sucked the life out of the Edmonton Oilers last night. You could tell after they weathered the storm in the first 10 minutes, that game was over. That's the feel I had, at least.
Oh, they gave them absolutely nothing. Man, I find so many parallels, not just this series or anything, but throughout the seasons between the Oilers and the Leafs, and the way their good can be good and their bad can be bad, and some of their deficiencies. Maybe that's starting to change a little bit with their problem, I think, being mostly defense and goaltending. But absolutely, it was reminiscent of some of the frustrating games we watched the Leafs play against this Panthers team, where they're just smothered everywhere, absolutely smothered. They can't get control. They can't get possession. They can't get ozone time, and they certainly couldn't get much for chances going. And when they did, Bobber was right there. It's just ridiculous. To me, it's an attitude and execution that this Florida Panthers just holds in spades of all the right things. It's unbelievable to watch. They were a shoo-in to win that thing. I called it from a long time ago. I rode them from the get-go. Didn't think Edmonton had what it took to beat them. I don't think anyone on the face of the planet has what it takes to beat that team right there in a 7-game series, and back-to-back champs for a reason.
Yeah, it's called spade a spade. I was wrong. I was on the Edmonton Oilers boat all postseason, all season long, and then push came to shove in the Stanley Cup final. And it was, again, to your point, a lot of parallels to the Maple Leaf series. I thought Edmonton had the Panthers dead to rights early on in that series and couldn't finish the job. Much similar to the Maple Leafs. Still remember, again, Producer Vic pinching me after a Maple Leafs goal. It hurt a lot, but I'm like, fuck, the Leafs are about to go up 3-0. I'm thinking about travel to Carolina for round 3, and we know the rest of that story. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show, hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. And yeah, there's always got to be a Leafs tie-in. I'm sure you saw this yesterday. Johnny Lazarus, who hosts Morning Cup of Hockey with Colby Cohen, the boys do a great job, had to put out the tweet about the Maple Leafs being up 3-1, the graphic, the picture. It's always got to be tied back to the Maple Leafs. Hell, I'm guilty of it. But yeah, this one stings a bit because I watched the way the Oilers played in that Cup final, and I think about the fact the Maple Leafs had, again, the Panthers seemingly dead to rights. You win that series, man, you could be home free if you're the Maple Leafs.
Oh, that's what I was saying the whole time. I don't think there's another team that could beat the Leafs. And some people don't really like the comparison, but it's a fair comparison to say the Leafs did the best against that Florida Panthers team than everyone else they faced. It just feels like such a dagger in the chest to think back to how they had like a literal stranglehold on the series, up 2-0 in games and have a 2-goal lead. What was it, in the middle of the second period of game 3? I remember that one. I was driving to Lethbridge for my kids' tournament, and the first 10 minutes was on, I was listening on my app in the car, and then just bolted into the hotel to catch the rest of it. But I remember going, oh, like their start, and you can't watch it, you can just hear it. And I'm like, oh my God, like when you thought the Panthers were going to throw the kitchen sink at the Leafs, they were the ones that started on time, and they got the first goal scored, and then they added. It was just like unbelievable. And then you look back and you're like, they lost. It's just they lost it. And game 5 and 7 hurts, and that was reminiscent of the last couple of games there for the Oilers series of just having absolutely no answer for the Florida Panthers' best. And at the end of the day, they're the best team in the world, and I don't know what that says about the Maple Leafs or whatever comparisons. It doesn't really matter. Nobody beat them, but God damn it, it does hurt to look back at that series as they gave them the best run of anybody this year by far.
Those Oilers blank stares got me, man. All too familiar to the Maple Leafs blank stares where it's like they saw a ghost. And you got to credit the Florida Panthers. Just incredible defense, I felt, once again here in closing out the Edmonton Oilers in Game 6. They don't even get to a 7th game this season. In support of Sick Kids, Maxentius Decimus writes in with a super chat and appreciate this. He has been saying this. I've said this for a while. Leafs better than the Edmonton Oilers. Go Leafs, go. Yes, so the Maple Leafs officially on the clock once again. But yeah, it was stifling. Sam Bennett wins the Conn Smythe. He narrowly edged Brad Marchand, who was incredible too, but 15 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs for Sam Bennett. He have a contract here, 13 on the road. That's the big number for me, doing it away from Amarant Bank Arena, Rosie.
Nuts, man. He was a beast. And I don't know, I was talking with a buddy last night, like, Bennett was in Calgary, and like Verhaeghe was the Leafs property. And it's just like, well, what happens to these guys when they get to Florida? And I know one thing that I don't know if it gets enough credit or not, but like, does Paul Maurice get those guys in a room and just somehow make them understand what it takes and how to approach the games? Like you have to give coaching a look at how do you get all these guys on the same page? Like their confidence level and understanding of what the job is and how to do it is off the charts. It's pretty much like nothing I've seen before. I know there's been some good teams in the past, no question, but I don't think anyone with quite as rock solid of an identity as the Florida Panthers were. And I'm just thinking about how do you get all those guys on the same page? And, you look at the Leafs struggles and everybody's struggles in the league in comparison, and they're all trying to get to the point where you have that identity, and it's just too hard to get guys. They're on their own page, or they're this type of player or that type of personality. I don't get it, man. But they come to this vortex of Florida, and everyone just turns into this machine that's all pulling on the same rope in the same weight in the same direction, and it's just leads to nothing but complete success, especially in the playoffs. So hats off to them. I've been beating that drum for a while now. I've just thought that they have all the right stuff, and we know this is a copycat league. I think everyone's going to be looking to become the Florida Panthers and create that identity for themselves.
I think the key word there is identity, and also like the leadership core. That conversation always seems to bring me back to the leaders of this team. The Selke Trophy winner every season, he's their captain. You lead by example. When you're the best defensive player on the team and you are the captain, that goes a long way. You lead by example. Then you have Matthew Tkachuk. Then you have Sam Reinhart, who had more goals last night than Mitch Marner has had in the last 20 playoff games, the last 23 for Austin Matthews. The list goes on and on. Just so many big game players. I thought the big story in the series was the third line, but who is it that shows up in the closeout game? It's the big boys. Specifically, Sam Reinhart was a beast. The Oilers had no response. And to me, to answer your question, I just think it's the leadership core. I think guys get there, and it's like fall in line or you're out. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that'd be fair to say as well. Man, with Zito making those moves at the deadline, like Marchand, and on the back end, Jonesy, like no one was even like, I never heard their names mentioned of all the stuff that you cover and watch on TV and beating the dead horse over the same goddamn people. He pulls the trigger on these two guys, doesn't even cost him much, doesn't even cap hit him all that much, and just this like unbelievable upgrade to an already unbelievable team, which like Marchand was the runner-up. I thought Bobber would be the runner-up for the Conn Smythe. That was released or what? Wow.
Yeah, it was Marchand. Yeah.
Like unbelievable. How do you just acquire a guy like that no one else even sees? And I think I said yesterday, I tweeted out, like, how was no one else on the mark? And they're like, he decided to go to, well, he looked pretty stunned and shocked and taken aback by being dealt out of Boston where he wanted to finish his career. So I don't think that's the case. Just unbelievable work by Zito. I don't really think there's a general manager trophy, which is kind of funny. I guess it's the Stanley Cup, right? But it's him in spades, man. The moves he has made and the players he has got, it is this machine that you can talk to the coaching or the leadership or the general managers or the players themselves. They've got all the right stuff, man. And now they've got all the hardware to prove it. And I'm curious to see, Zito said after that game, like right on the ice, for crying out loud, kind of crazy of Duthie to ask him about that at the time. But how are you going to keep all three of these guys? And he's like, oh, we can do it and we're going to try. I don't know how, but it's going to be interesting to see how they keep those guys together and what they're going to be like in the future. But I think there's going to be a lot of that DNA left over for next year too, which is insane to think.
So they give out the Jim Gregory GM award every year, and believe it or not, Bill Zito has yet to win it. The last 5 winners, Lou Lamoriello went back-to-back, then Joe Sakic 21-22, then Jim Nill, the Dallas Stars, won the last 2 seasons. I hope, for the sake of this beautiful game, that it's Bill Zito this season, because I agree with you.
Also known as Barry Zito.
Yeah, your guy, the Southpaw.
I get names mixed up sometimes. But yeah, very impressive stuff, man. Wild to see the Oilers to go down that road and to go through that physically, mentally, emotionally, and then to do it again and to have all these question marks around the team and the players themselves as you start to hear those creeping up. Just to think of having to start over and climb that mountain after back-to-back heartbreaks has got to be, like, as high as that is for the Florida Panthers, the low that the Edmonton Oilers are feeling right now, I just can't imagine, man, like, physically and emotionally draining to go down that road that is the final of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and to get smoked twice is just got to be crushing, man. I think it's worse this year than last because they kind of got smoked in many ways, and it wasn't this Cinderella story of hope coming back from 3-0 and you've never lost before, and there was so much hope for next year. And I'm sure they'll find their hope and regain their determination, but god damn, it's got to be a low point for all those guys, especially the big boys.
Without question. And I think as a Leafs fan, it brings me solace knowing the Panthers not just trolling the Maple Leafs. Like, I love when they beat you and then they tell you how they beat you and why they beat you. And Matthew Tkachuk, and we see Pink Pony Club playing in the room last night, cigar in mouth, chugging out of the Stanley Cup. And then Matthew Tkachuk offers this quote: "Heart meets talent. Our team was a team when things were getting hard for them. They looked to one guy, but our team, we do it collectively. And that's why we're lifting the Stanley Cup right now, because we're a team and not a bunch of individuals." Man, he's cocky, but he's so good. I know, it was an unbelievable quote. He's cocky, he's so good. And I love how right away, like, when do players call themselves a dynasty? I don't know if you caught that quote, but Matthew Tkachuk's like, how are we not a dynasty now? Like, no, somebody's supposed to frame you a dynasty. You're not supposed to call yourselves a dynasty. But how can you dispute what Matthew Tkachuk was saying last night? The guy's a warrior. He's a gamer. His injuries came out. Like, I don't even know how the guy was playing. But, yeah, that's some shade, some serious shade there to the Oilers.
Yeah, I can't believe figured that would come out. I'm not surprised. He was pretty banged up. I don't know what he was doing. Like, everyone says torn off the bone, and like, okay, whatever. But obviously injured, came out. He was not a factor throughout the playoffs, and then he was in like the second half of this final, it seems like. That dagger of a goal last night was just, they're so good. And I knew that when they were doing their, celebration and their interviews and stuff, how many times everybody said, like, this group, like, oh my God, this group. And everyone does say that when they win the Stanley Cup, but you have to imagine that inside that locker room, like, the way those guys have all bought in, it's so hard to do. I can't tell you how many times, I've been in a locker room and part of a team, and it's just, there's kind of little cliques, and there's these guys that kind of are all on board with the coach, and the other guys that are kind of butting heads with it, and this guy won't get on the same page, and that guy's like super selfish and kind of a little bit of a cancer in the locker room, and these guys are too young, and those guys are so old, and there's this gap between mindsets and effort levels and styles of play. It's just so hard to get all those guys, 24 of them basically, on the same page. And just to a man, all those guys, like from the back end and Ekblad and the guys they brought in, Marchand and Jones, are you kidding me? they're all just, it must be the tightest group ever. I imagine they're partying like crazy today. I've never seen a bar get so much promo from a Stanley Cup win as the Elbow Room, but they're there right now, I believe, and just giving her. And I just think they've found the formula, the chemistry that everyone's looking for, and it shows on the ice, it shows in the locker room, it's probably showing right now as they're just partying. But I can't think of a team that is that strung together as the Florida Panthers are in this era.
I'm sorry to break it to you. There's just not many different bar options in Florida. That Elbow Room's the number one spot, but I mentioned this yesterday with Pagnotta. I think it's grossly overrated. But I laughed. I woke up, I went to Twitter, and the Panthers were at Elbow Room at like 8:30 a.m. These guys did not sleep. There's videos of them pouring drinks off the balcony there. Like, it's utter mayhem. It sounds like the parade's going to be on Sunday, by the way, but well-deserved. Far and away the best team. And I think the great thing with the Panthers, they get stronger and stronger by the game. Like, I think if you witnessed the way they played in the first round to the final game, it was almost night and day. And even night and day in the Maple Leaf series, where it just feels like every time they know they have to turn things on, they're able to execute and do their job. And again, last night, it was just a full team effort. You get the saves from Sergei Bobrovsky, that the blue line was so locked in. And it's like Sam Reinhart, Matthew Tkachuk, the big boys making the big plays. And on top of that, it won't be spoken about, but they did an unbelievable job shutting down the big boys on the Oilers. I know McDavid's taking a lot of grief, Draisaitl as well. I got to give credit to Florida. We've seen that so many times against the Maple Leafs and other great teams in this league, and they just always seem to have an answer and a buy-in defensively.
Yeah, I think it's that as much as, I mean, who's knocking Draisaitl and McDavid? They're as good as it gets, and we've seen what they can do, but they couldn't do any of it because of the play of the Florida Panthers. Like, you'd see McDavid, like, he's just like, I'm just trying to impose my will on this game, like wheeling the net late and just those high crossovers, and you just run into bodies. I don't understand how the Florida Panthers can have that aggressive of coverage and have swarm, the ice in the areas that the opponent is trying to get to, and not leave other things wide open. Like, they will move the puck cross ice and it just gets smothered again. Like, the buy-in to the systems and the way to play and the effort it takes to do that is just off the charts for the Panthers. But you could see the way they executed it, like the best players in the world, like, they had nothing, man. They couldn't sustain pressure. They couldn't sustain ozone time. They couldn't get the puck to the dangerous areas. They couldn't find their support. It was just an overwhelming, defensive show. And then inevitably they're going to break down on the other side of things, and the Panthers are there just to jump. And it doesn't matter if it's Reinhart or Verhaeghe or Bennett or Barkov or Marchand or Tkachuk. Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? How you build a team like that in a hard cap era? Again, Zito, unbelievable. But I don't know, enough stroking them off, I guess. But I just, from what you saw, it was just disgustingly outmatched team, everyone that they faced. And yeah, the Leafs did give them the best run, so maybe that's a good sign with things. And it makes you ill to think about how they had them down in the first 3 games.
Very ill. That's a really astute point, Rosie. In support of Sick Kids, Maxentius Decimates, thank you so much again for another super chat. Gustav Forsling is underrated. He shut down 97. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I feel like the brain trust in Edmonton let down their team. And the players will never say this, this, but they got pedestrian goaltending. Like, your guy Stuart Skinner is absorbing shots like it's beer league hockey. Like, This goal specifically, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, we talked about this yesterday going into Game 6. If we're talking about goaltending going into Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, you're absolutely cooked, and that's exactly what happened last night.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's just a horrendous look for Nurse as well. Bouchard last night was like, imagine being a -4 in the biggest game of your life as a defenseman. It's just gross. But yeah, it's an 8-8. 8 or 9 save percentage. It's just not good enough in the Stanley Cup final. And at the deadline, everyone's like even rolling the dice on Binnington. I don't know, like, to hear the whole interview of Stuart Skinner yesterday after the game, like, what a likable, well-spoken dude. I just imagine that plays into it a little bit. Like, we love you, dude, and we believe in you, and we want you to be the guy. And when he's good, he's good. But he's always been kind of inconsistent and kind of streaky, and I just don't see how you can win a cup with those numbers. And when you look at Bobber, like maybe there was 3 or 4 kind of goals that you're kind of 50-50. Yeah, man, maybe Bobber should have had that. A couple of high gloves that beat him kind of clean. And that's it. Like in the 2 months of hockey we just watched that guy play, like there's just a blip on the radar as far as anything besides utter consistency. And I think that definitely hurt them. Ekholm was bloody terrible, man. Like that absolute grenade. I've never received a worse pass in children's hockey or beer league hockey than that shoveling end over end grenade onto Bush, and then just decides to go open it up to anyone to take it, and then tries to backhand it up the wall, gets stripped of that. Then Bouchard comes flying over, which he kind of did on that Marchand goal the previous game, like just flying towards the wall, leaving the middle completely. Like, just what are you doing? But yes, I got off track here, but like Skinner, he said he tried to trap that puck kind of on his blocker, but it just looked like a little road hockey, pop it out to the middle, and then they just throw it back door, and all it has to do is hit a skate or anything, because Nurse looks like he's giving about 55% effort on taking away that man. Just a lot of brain dead, egregious errors that I know have been eating up the Edmonton Oilers for quite a while. And as good as they are, when they're bad, they look like there's just deficiencies here and there. And I looked at the D and the goaltending, and there's just too many holes, especially when it mattered, and they just got overwhelmed.
They did. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. The following interview is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. As we bring in today's guest, the Jack Adams Trophy winner, former Leafs assistant, Washington Capitals head coach. It is Spencer Carbery. Spencer, thank you so much for doing this. Congratulations. How are you?
Really good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Our pleasure. Great to touch base with you. And we'll get to the Jack Adams, because that was so unique and so cool how you were presented with the award. But just your quick thoughts. The Florida Panthers, Stanley Cup champions yet again. We were just talking about it. They just made Edmonton look so bad. But every team, it seems like the Panthers do that too, right?
Yeah, they are truly turning into a dynasty level team here with the last couple of years that they've put together, and just the way that they've done it too. They just overwhelm teams at times, and every facet, from their depth to their decor to their goaltending, like you just name it. And it feels like they just check every box you need to have a championship level team. And so they're the cream of the crop right now in our league.
Yeah, and we were talking before you came on, Carbs, about, how do you get all those guys on the same page? Like, their identity is just what comes to mind first and foremost. They all adopt it. And I wonder, like, how much of that is Paul Maurice and how much of that is coaching? And as a coach yourself, how hard is that to do? And how much of the credit do you give to Paul Maurice for that team?
I think it's a little bit of all the above, and I don't mean to skirt the question, but I feel like coaching for sure. Their identity as a team and getting everybody on the same page with that. I also think their front office deserves a lot of credit, because if you look at the players, it's funny, especially in their top six and then their third line, like they just all, when you think about a player that is going to be willing to forecheck, a player that's physical and hard on pucks, a player that's going to go to the net front, a player that's going to make a good decision with the puck through the neutral zone. Like, I was watching last night, and it just feels like they have a lot of guys that fit that bill and fit that identity. And so part of that absolutely is coaching, and then the other part is management of identifying those players that'll fit inside of that system. And so, even their really high end players, the Reinhardts of the world, like, he's just so good in a lot of those hard areas, and it just fits their identity perfectly.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I mean, sometimes it feels like they have 8 guys out there, just so swarming and just like it's. I'm curious too, like as a coach, like do you hate watch the Stanley Cup final because you wish your team did better? Like, how do you watch the Stanley Cup final?
Little bit of both. A little bit of gosh, I wish we were there, and I'm a little bit irritated and pissed off. But then also the coach in you is also picking up little things through the game on both sides, that you're kind of banking for. Oh, that I really like how they do this consistently, and it's something that we have to do a better job of. So you're doing a little bit of both, and then you're watching players too, and who elevates their games in those moments. And it's yeah, you're kind of got a little bit of a battle of emotions going on upstairs. But and look, I will say this too, like Florida, no question, deserves a ton of credit. But the line is so fine, and I know you guys have probably talked about how close Toronto and what Game 3 looked like, and even going into Game 7, like they're right there. Last night, okay, the game starts. Edmonton gets arguably the first 3 grade A's of the game, and Bob makes great saves. Like Bouchard, that big one-timer on the delay by Draisaitl goes back up top. Like that's a really quality save early. So he sort of, they get one there, and does it change things? Look, I'm not taking anything away from them. They had the lead basically the whole series, but it is such a fine line. There's so much parity in our league right now that one game going one way or the other, or one goal here and there, can really have a large impact.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about you personally, Carbs. Like, to win the Jack Adams, I'm sure you'll downplay it and not want to talk about your own personal success. But when a coach starts his coaching career, I mean, you started in the coast and then through the different levels of pro hockey, and then to get to the National League, and then to get the head coaching position. That's a road that's daunting, especially after being a player and all the uncertainty and your job security and everything. It's not very often you get that recognition. And to win the Jack Adams, there's nothing bigger than that. Like, how good of an offseason are you having after just receiving that ultimate award for a coach?
I never I was saying this like right after in one of the interviews that they did, like, oh, did you ever dream of winning an award like this, an individual award, or coaching the NHL? And I'm like, I'm not exact. No, I did not. And I never even in my wildest thoughts, like I remember when I started coaching and I got the head coaching position in South Carolina, I was so excited and happy that I was a head coach, and I was like making a decent, or like a reputable living and salary. My paycheck looked somewhat respectable. I was like, I could literally, I hope I can just coach here for the next 20 years and do a good enough job where they give me an extension after my 1-year deal that I just signed, and I'll be like so happy, and I'll raise my family in Charleston, South Carolina, and that's all I want to do. I just want to do a really good job here in South Carolina so I can coach here for the rest of my life and raise a family. And so it was never even like a thought. I just tried to do the absolute best job I could in SoCo and down there. And I've been so fortunate to be in some great organizations around some great people, some people that took chances on me. Like there's a bunch along the way, but I'll just reference for you guys, like Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe taking a chance on me to run the Toronto Maple Leafs power play when I'd never coached in the NHL or played in the NHL. Like that, they took a chance. And there's a lot of people that wouldn't have taken that chance to hire someone like me coming from the AHL to have that responsibility in that market. And so breaks along the way like that are what you absolutely need. And that's happened to me a lot.
Carbs, how cool is it the way they presented that to you? My man Joe B, great actor, the best in the league, I think. But I mean, just to have your family and your kids present you with the Jack Adams, that's so damn cool, man.
Man, it was really emotional. I didn't really know what was going on. I kind of figured something was up, but didn't really know. And then my kids and wife, and they're walking this trophy in, and then the other most important people in my life, my mom, dad, brother, in-laws, sister-in-law, who, and when I said that on the thing, I'm not exaggerating. Like they live in Victoria, British Columbia, Camden, South Carolina, Chicago, Green Bay, Wisconsin, like all over the continent, and my wife Casey was able to coordinate them all coming in, and they hid it from me, and they were staying in hotels. Obviously, weren't staying at our house the night before, and so it was really, really surprised, and just one of those moments that you get to share with your family that I'll never forget.
I imagine. I want to take it back to this season and coaching Ovi and the special year that he had with getting the all-time goal record. And was that difficult having this player that's this special, but, pushing 40 and also wanting to try to probably get him the record this season, and it was coming down to the wire? Was that difficult to did you have to change your style at all, or did that kind of get on your mind more than it would have if that wasn't really a factor?
It was definitely felt a lot more real this year than the year before. And what I mean by real is it was, he got within striking distance. So coming into the season, we're sort of like, okay, it's a lot of goals. Like, he's going to have a really, really good season at 39 years old. So you weren't really thinking about it, but it was in the back of your mind. And when he came in, so my first year here, he really struggled. So this is 2 years ago. He really struggled in the first half of the year. I want to say he only had 8 or 9 goals in the first 30-something games. And then he caught fire in the second half. So going into last year, you're like, him and I talked a lot in the offseason about his preparation and his training and what his training camp was going to look like, because we were trying to help him get off to a good start, because that didn't happen the previous season. So you're a little bit guarded in the back of your mind, is it, hopefully he doesn't have a start like that. Can we help him? And he came out hot as a pistol, was on fire right out of the gate. So then it became really real. You're like, okay, if he keeps his pace up, he's going to get 50. Let alone this record might be done by, February. Then the Utah game happens on the road, and we win in Utah, and he breaks his leg. And I remember going into the locker room to talk to the guys, and then we go into the coach's room, and it was very somber after a win, and guys we knew right away. They got the X-rays in the building. And he was pretty distraught when I saw him in the meal room back at the hotel after the game. And then you go to, okay, well, that pretty much does that. How's he going to get to this record now with breaking his leg, coming back? It's probably going to be around Christmas time or after Christmas time. So then as he starts to, after he got over 2 or 3 days, he starts training and yeah, I could sit here for hours and talk about his mindset as an elite athlete and as one of the greatest, athletes of all time, let alone hockey players. But it immediately turns to, okay, let me start skating. And our trainer's like, whoa. This is 4 or 5 days out from breaking your leg. Pump the brakes. And he then starts to train, starts to get ready. He's on the ice. He's pushing. He comes back at Christmas. And again, you think it's going to take him 2-3 weeks to get going. And he starts red hot again. So that sort of brings us to then when you get him really single digits. And then once it got to single digits, it just felt like it was 2 weeks and it was there. He just kept scoring every single night, including those last few games where we thought Wayne was going to be traveling. Gretzky was going to be traveling with us for a few weeks, and he was literally with us for 2 games because he scores, 2 in the Chicago game, almost get the hat trick, and then the Islanders game, and that was that.
Yeah, I got to give you credit too. If I remember correctly, he didn't want you to pull the goalie, right?
Yeah, he didn't want to go out, and he told me that before. But I wanted to make sure because it was a home game against Chicago. That game was electric. Wayne's first game with the team, the commissioner in the building, Gary Bettman, home game. He's already got 2 in the game. The place was that was one of the coolest games I've ever been a part of. In my life, just the feeling in the building, the coming back in the game. He's got 2. He ties the record. So the goalie's coming, and I just reconfirm with him, hey, you sure you don't want to do it now at home? Because we're going on the road the next game to Long Island. And he's like, nope, I don't want to go out there. And I said, okay, no problem. Ryan Leonard scores an empty netter, his first goal in the National Hockey League. So that was great in itself. Now, the funny thing, if you go back to that game, so I think when we got the empty netter, there might have been 2 minutes to go. I put O back out there because they put their goalie back in. We go up 2. He had 3 grade A's after the empty netter in that last, like he probably took a minute 40 shift, maybe 2 minutes. He stayed out the whole time and got like 3 really, really good looks where he almost scored to break the record right there and get the hat trick with the goalie in the net. So it was, just remarkable what he's done in his career and especially this year chasing down that record.
Yeah, pretty special. All right. Just last from me, Carbs. I always like to ask a guy who's been part of the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, kind of their opinion on what it's like how different do you think it was being part of the Toronto Maple Leafs? There's a lot of talk right now about the scrutiny, they're under the pressure, the media, maybe unfairness at times. What was your take after being part of that organization and also others?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is my take is it takes a certain player, person, coach to be in that environment. And I just think that's just the reality because it is, I thought it was such a privilege and amazing. And you go on the road and all the different articles and the media and all it is to me is it's people that care a lot. And right or wrong, whether you're playing good or poorly, when you're in an organization where people care and love the team and have passion, sometimes negative and positive, that's a great spot to be. I loved that pressure and wanting to do well and didn't have an issue with that. So what I'm getting at is you need to be okay with that and be okay with the scrutiny at times and be okay with the applied pressure and when things don't go well. So I just think it takes a certain player person to have success and thrive and want to be in those environments. And that's the way that I always took it there. It was such a privilege to coach in a for a franchise and an organization and a city like Toronto, because you just knew how much it meant. And that to me felt great. Seeing all the passion and the fan base and the articles and all that stuff. I always tell a funny thing because the running the power play isn't always the easiest thing in Toronto. When things are going south for, inevitably it's going to happen through stretches of the season when things dry up. But I was always like, I'm watching the film too. Like the power play is not good enough right now. So I agree with this article or what this person's writing or whatever this person was saying on. So that never really bothered me. And so, it's a long-winded way of saying I think it's a great privilege to play in places like that and certain players for sure and people and coaches. But I think for the most part, it's an absolute honor to coach and be in those organizations.
What did you see playing the Maple Leafs this year? Do you think Berube's got them on the right track here?
I do. I like their team. I like the way they played. They sort of transformed their identity a little bit this year, which obviously is from the coach. And like you saw in the playoffs, they were right there. They beat Ottawa in the first round, go to 7 with Florida. The win in game 6, huge. Like they, I was impressed with their game and the moves that they made too. So their identity changes with not only the coach, but Tree making some moves that sort of bringing some players in that fit more of that mold. So I felt like their D-core turned into more of okay, it's going to be hard, heavy. We're going to move pucks north. We're going to be bigger, longer, defend better, get in shot lanes, protect the net front, do things like that, which, I thought they had a real good year and was real impressed.
What was that like squaring off with Sheldon this year? That must have been kind of weird and interesting.
Yeah, especially in the division, and him and I had some good chats, and got to see each other a few times through the season. And his Jersey, without some injuries, like they've got a good young team too, with the way that they play, and a little bit different than Toronto, but the skill and speed with a lot of their forwards, and then also with the back end that's coming up with the young Hughes kid and Dougie Hamilton obviously being there. So we had some good battles, but we played them a ton early in the year. I want to say like we were done with them within the first month and a half. We must have played them 4 or 5 times, like right out of the gate. And so we got a healthy dose of Kiefer right out of the gate.
Lastly, I just wanted to ask you, the coaching fraternity pretty tight, and it seems like Toronto's got a knack for having bald head coach or assistant coaches. Derek Lalonde coming in the mix this time. What kind of reputation does Newsy have around the league?
He's got a real good reputation. Great guy. Coached against him for years. Him and I actually squared off. This is going way back. He was the head coach in Toledo in the ECHL when I was the head coach in South Carolina. So we squared off in an epic 7-game Eastern Conference Finals. I want to say it went to like double or triple overtime. It was 0-0 game. So we've had some battles in our day, but a good hockey mind, really smart, delivers a good message. I think you guys will come to like Newsy there in Toronto. I have a lot of respect for the job that he's done and getting to know him as a coach.
And as you know, the only market where we talk about the assistant coaches, the power play quarterback, the video coaches, I mean, it's very, very unique. And not to sound dumb or like, I'm always curious. So you win the Jack Adams Trophy. Did they give you like a replica or something like that? Like, what do you get in recognition of the award?
Another great question. I thought you would get. I'm like, someone asked me that the other day. It's like, hey, do you have the trophy? And I'm like, no, they took it away immediately, actually. So I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what goes on. And I have yet to ask our Sergey, our director of communications, do you get to have it for like a week? Do you get a replica? How does that all work?
Well, that's weird because I remember sitting in John Tortorella's office. I was like 20 and his Jack Adams was sitting right there on like a side table. And I was like, holy, so maybe you got a replica made or something. But I'd look into that if I was you. That's something you got to have to show off.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Carbs, this couldn't have happened to a better person, man. Can't thank you enough. Second time you've been on the show. Always nice enough to give us some time. Appreciate this. Have a great summer. As we can tell, you're getting ready for the draft and free agency. The work never stops, and that's why we love you, man. Thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely, guys. Anytime, and thanks for having me on again. Have a great summer.
Our pleasure. Carbs. You too. Take care. That is Spencer Carbery, the head coach of the Washington Capitals. One of my favorite interviews, man. The guy is just so insightful. Knows his stuff. The breakdowns are great, and we're so happy for him winning that Jack Adams Trophy. And it was kind of cool to get the unique aspect behind the scenes of Alex Ovechkin's storybook season 2, Rosie?
Yeah, that is. He's a likable dude, man, and seems open and honest. And like some guys are so reserved and like it's just like, what's the point of interviewing you? But Carbs is awesome there, and Western Canadian dude, and came up through the coast. He's similar age to me, and to see him have that kind of success at that level is pretty awesome after doing it, the right way and coming up through, the different levels is pretty awesome. And then to get to the big league and get a shot, like you said, with the organization that is as big as the Maple Leafs, pretty neat. And then to get the reins to an organization with the things going for it, like the Washington Capitals is pretty neat. So I imagine he's having a good summer and enjoying everything that's come his way here.
Tell you what, if things, and they're about to get quiet maybe in July, we got to get a top 5 list from producer Vic, who's also part of Bic Nation. Call him producer Bic. He's bald. I mean, make a top 5 list, producer Vic, of your top coaches in the league who are bald. But yeah, Newsy in the mix. Carbs was there. Just a hot fire season from Spencer Carbery in Washington. And I always wonder about the repeat next year. Rick Tocchet won last year's award, right? Like there's just a lot of success when it comes to dudes who don't have hair. Maybe you lose your hair because you're a coach, right?
I think that would probably go hand in hand with it. It's one thing people don't talk about how tough that is for men to have that. Women don't really deal with it quite as much, but doesn't seem to hold some of these guys back, man. He's got a pretty wicked attitude by all accounts from that interview, and I imagine the guys enjoy playing for him and had enough success, obviously, judging by that trophy he won. That kind of surprises me. He doesn't know what the deal is with the trophy or what, but I do remember specifically that I guess it was a replica sitting in John Tortorella's office. And I remember thinking like, oh God, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's just kind of a layer of put some respect on it when you walk into a guy's office.
Yeah, man, I was prepping for the interview. I'm like, what can I think of question-wise that he's probably not asked a lot? And I'm like, do you actually get the trophy? Like, we often talk about a mantle in pro sports of all your awards. Do you actually get awards? Like that's a legit question, because we know there's some replicas out there, and I'm sure he'll get something, but maybe Tortorella just stole it. He's like, that's mine now. I could see him doing that.
Well, I could see him doing that too. With I think it's golf. You know, you win these amazing trophies and stuff like that. But again, the special ones, there's kind of only one of them, right? And I think it's golf where you have to like purchase your own replica, and it's like $7,000 or something like that. And just you don't think of behind the scenes. You think you just get showered with all these things, but they send you a bill for some of that stuff. But in the positions of some of those sports guys winning those special ones, I'm sure writing that check doesn't hurt very much, as it's a pretty neat accolade, like the Jack Adams for Spencer Carbery there. That was great.
Yeah, for example, like Sam Bennett wins the Conn Smythe Trophy. Does he get a replica Conn Smythe Trophy? Like, how do you commemorate that award in 35 years from now when you show your grandkids? Like, do you have a replica? Like, how do you prove it?
Yeah. I think you'd have to go and do that one on your own. That's a monster trophy, that damn thing. It's kind of hard to hold.
Did you see the Jack Adams, how big it is?
Yeah, it's bigger than you would think, hey, when you see it beside people. Kind of cool. That Conn Smythe, I don't know. I feel like you just like, he's a Conn Smythe winner. Like playing with Jaguar and stuff, you're just kind of like, he's a Conn Smythe winner. Like there's not many guys that can do that. There's not many guys that win a cup, but there's considerably less that have won a Conn Smythe. That's very cool as well. I don't even know if you need one of those. You're just like, that just comes with your name. It's like, and he's a Conn Smythe winner.
My one rule, if you win like an award or a prestigious award like the Conn Smythe, for example, you should get an extra $2 million on your contract, AAV, because you're above everybody else. That would just make things way more fascinating. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. As referenced, the NHL draft is coming up. Speaking of which, hockey fans, get ready for an in-depth look at the future of the game. The Sheet Draft Special will be live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel on Friday, June 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with host Jeff Merrick. Pick by pick, Merrick will have you covered, breaking down the entire night with expert analysis and insider insight. Don't miss the Sheet Draft Special, live June 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Subscribe now so you don't miss a moment, brought to you by the Nation Network. Yeah, now the fun stuff begins, Rosie, because we dive into the offseason, and why don't we touch on some of the latest news and notes surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs? It's pretty crazy, 48 minutes in here. Really haven't talked about the Leafs, but I think it's warranted. We had Carbs on, and we talked about the Stanley Cup final. But, I mean, all in all, not much. Did you see the report yesterday that Mitch Marner could wait until middle of July to make his decision? He's going to try to sabotage this entire free agent market, I guess, here.
Yeah, I did see that. Again, kind of know my stance on. I'm like, I guess, like, I always like, where did that come from? There's only one person that knows that, Mitch Marner. And do you think he told someone, hey, keep it on the down low and don't say that this came from me, but I'm going to wait until like the 15th of July. So, people talk, right? And go put that out there. Like, what? I just don't get it. I just feel like these rumors come up the same way any other rumors come up. But yeah. I mean, if he does in fact do that, it seems like there's certain players, and it's kind of the number one free agent. He kind of keeps everyone else in limbo if that doesn't get done, because no one knows who's available and who's not and what's what and it kind of keeps it in limbo. And I could see him doing that. I don't know. I think it seems like he's waited a while to come to this time, and he's had it in his mind that he is leaving Toronto if they didn't get it done this year. I do get the feeling that there's some animosity there, and he doesn't feel like he was treated fairly, and he says adios to you guys and piss on you as well. Like, I don't need you. I'm out of here. I'm better than this. I don't deserve this. I shouldn't have to put up with this. And he's gone with a bit of chip on his shoulder, and that's his right to do so when you get to free agency. And when you're the number one dude like he is, it's not very many guys that get to test that out. So I don't challenge his right to do that or anything. I just, I think that the criticism that he has gotten is warranted, and I guess no one's going to like that. I wouldn't like it, but it's just crazy that it came down to this. The way he's going to leave this city is going to be, I think you could call it ugly by all comparisons, and I don't think it'll be as ugly as John Tavares with the whatnots, as we talked about this week. Matt Sundin left in kind of, an ugly taste in people's mouth, but now he's beloved by all. So we'll see what time does with Mitch Marner, where he lands. And it's just interesting. It's going to end this way.
Very contentious ending to Mitch Marner's time in Toronto. And every day we see more and more reports. Just to follow up on what you were saying, I think a lot of this narrative is driven from the agent. I don't know that for a fact, but I think a lot of the information that comes out, because Darren Ferris is a guy who likes to go to July 1 with his clients. He is a guy who likes to negotiate through the media. That's why we're seeing all the speculation with Sam Bennett, who's also his client. But I just think you're right. Like, the way Marner's going out, it's like kicking and screaming. And then you see the reports, like he's so done with the Maple Leafs, and it's like he's finished. And it's like, hey, like, it's amicable, man. Like, I don't know what kind of picture they're trying to paint, but just go out, leave. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, I don't need to see another report that he's pissed off with the way they handled the situation. And there's been pushback from people I've talked to about the Maple Leafs offering a contract to begin with this year. I know that was speculated upon a couple of months ago, that maybe they offered him the most lucrative contract in franchise history. I've heard pushback on that. I don't even know if there's been negotiations, but every report suggests that Mitch Marner has been unwilling to even talk to the Maple Leafs this season. But it is what it is. You move on. We get set for free agency. You wanted to touch a bit on Corey Perry today, right?
I just have in my mind, after watching him, and we actually met him at the lacrosse tournament for my kid there a couple of weeks ago. I think it was the night before game 1, I think is what it was. But he's my age, right? And I've followed him around. Remember when he was drafted, and Brian Burke, who was GM of the Anaheim Ducks, who drafted him, was adamant about doing, I think, just about like damn near a full year in the American League, no matter who you are. So Getzlaf and Perry and Bobby Ryan, and these guys are down there playing against us. And to see where he's at now, it does blow my mind. I realize he's 40 years old. I realize how people normally slow down at that age, and he's never been fast, and he certainly isn't fast now. But to see the way he plays it's just pure playoff hockey player, and in an old school way, which I think is as needed as ever, especially on the Toronto Maple Leafs. His nose around the net, his feistiness, his rat-like behavior, where getting under people's skin. He's literally the guy that like steps up and fights in the regular season when that is what needs to take place. Like, you can't tell me that just because he's 40, he's not worth like $1 million. If we could get him, I would be trying to insert myself in the conversation of getting him pried away from Edmonton if I could. I know that he at one point wanted to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. People that are like, are you kidding me? I'm not saying give him a 5-year deal. I'm not saying give him $5 million. He is an afterthought as far as the cap is concerned. And think about what he brought to the table for the Edmonton Oilers and every other team he's ever played for. Like, I think it's a conversation that absolutely needs to be had. And people who poo-poo it instantly, it's like, do you not watch hockey? Or are you blind? Do you not see what he brings to the table? Even at 40, it's heads and shoulders what some of these kids coming down the line do, who would demand $1 million as well. Like, that's what they need in spades. I think it would be worth exploring is my point.
You want to talk about a ringing endorsement? I'm watching Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. You got the two best players in the NHL, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Who's flanking them? 40-year-old Corey Perry. I thought he was so impactful, throughout the postseason into the Stanley Cup Final, where you can make the argument. I think he was a top 3 player for the Edmonton Oilers in terms of big-time goals and marquee moments and consistency and longevity, which is crazy. And I'm curious to find out and figure out if he's going to go back to Edmonton, where else he would go. Is Toronto going to be an option? Does he get to July 1? Does he get a multi-year offer, as crazy, as ludicrous as that sounds? But I think he's earned it, man. Like, the reputation for a guy that, that old, I mean, sorry to say it in hockey terms, it's old, 40 to do what he did this year is downright amazing. Like, I have so much respect for that guy. And that story alone is just kind of sad, man. Like 5 straight or whatever it was Cup finals, and you don't win one. So he's like 1-5 in 6 all-time Stanley Cup finals is Corey Perry.
Well, it would be absolutely sickening if he didn't have a cup already. It would be like the saddest story in sports, up there with, like, I don't know, like Marino and guys who never won it. But he did get that one, which is the solace you can take. But that would seem like a long bloody time ago. I think he was damn near a rookie. But yeah, he can play on your fourth line, or he can play on your power play, or he can play with your big boys. Like, he could have scored 2 last night if Connor would have gotten the puck on his stick there. He's everywhere. He has a nose for the net. He plays with grit. And I think his age aside, I mean, if you're talking about $3.5 million, it's like, holy smokes, you can't, I get it. But for the people that, like, I don't think you can do better for $1 million. Like, I don't think you can put a player who's that versatile, who brings that to the table for $1 million. Give me a name. Give me one single name that's better than Corey Perry in all facets of the game. You can't. And for that reason, I think Tree should be, trying to plant a seed with that agent and say, hey, listen, we got some special things happening here. We think he could be the guy. Like, just pump him. And Perry's chasing a cup, and maybe there's a chance he thinks that that Edmonton could be part of his legacy. Or sorry, Toronto.
And lastly, I just wanted to add to that. It sounds more and more like Jonathan Toews could make a decision this week. I wasn't able to get confirmation that the Leafs are no longer in the running, but it sounds like it's Winnipeg, Colorado, and Tampa, down to a final 3 for Jonathan Toews. The Leafs were interested. I know for a fact they were interested. They reached out. The Toews camp reciprocated, but obviously closer and closer to making his decision. And for day one, we've been talking about this. Like, Winnipeg, to me, Rosie, makes the most sense. He's a Manitoba guy. Be kind of cool for him to go back home. Lowry got hurt. He's done for 6 months. Like, they need a center badly in Winnipeg. I just think he is trending towards joining Winnipeg, but I did want to touch on that the last couple days. In my opinion, at least, sounds unlikely Jonathan Toews will be signing with the Maple Leafs here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What do you mean by next week? Like, he's got to go to July 1 and then sign a contract, right?
So no, he's a free agent right now. From my understanding, he's going to make a decision. I guess he'll sign officially on July 1, but he can come out and say, I'm signing with Winnipeg if he wants to.
That's right, because he's nobody's property. Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, it was a kind of a cool story. I'm really interested whether he's on the Maple Leafs or not. And like you say, he sounds like he won't be, but I'm going to be watching intently. I mean, he's a guy from my era who did special things, who's so bloody likable, who's gone through some personal stuff that sounds serious. And it's kind of like his comeback / farewell, like, what does he have in the tank and how good can he be and how much does he impact the team that he ends up on? It's a great story. And I was interested in him on the Leafs. Again, it would be for a low amount of money on a role that isn't way up there high where you're expected to do really special things. And I love that because I think guys are capable of doing that. And then if something happens where they do have more left in the tank or their pedigree is just still there and they outplay their contract, I mean, I'm open for any of that opportunity with any position on any hockey team that I'm invested in.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's time now for the Crispy Hot Take of the Day, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 Portable Glass Air Fryer.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
It is an all-in-one system. It includes 4-quart, 6-cup Temp-Bar glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max Crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp with the Ninja Crispy. Visit their website in the link in the show description or check out ninjakitchen.ca. You ready for this hot take, Rosie?
Yeah, I am. I always am. Looking forward to them every day.
3 times a week, actually. Courtesy of producer Vic. Upon further assessment, the Leafs were actually the second best team in the NHL this season. Rosie, I think you can make a serious case for that because what I watched in the Stanley Cup final was a Florida Panthers team that the Maple Leafs took to 7 games, just beat the wheels off the Edmonton Oilers.
I have trouble arguing with it, right? Like I see on Twitter, oh, the worst part about this is that now Leafs fans are going to think that they were close. It's like, well, everyone kind of agrees that the truest test of hockey teams is to play a 7-game series. We saw all these teams do it. I said when they lost that I was extra devastated, because they had them down the way they did, but also because I thought that if they got by the Florida Panthers, there was no stopping them. I thought they would beat the Edmonton Oilers. I thought they'd beat the Carolina Hurricane. I thought they would beat the teams that they would have to face if they could get by Florida. Some people laughed at that, but I mean, if you want to be a stats dickhead, you can look at the results of the series and it would come to the conclusion that the Leafs were the second best team in the league, even though they lost in the second round. But that's the division setup for you. Are you going to say that the Colorado Avalanche are the 16th? You know what I mean? Like, because they lost. No, They had to face the Dallas Stars. Like, they easily could have gotten much deeper with a different route. And that is some people's knock on this divisional playoff system, as opposed to playing the 1 through 8. But the Leafs seem to have to come up against the mighty Boston Bruins in their heyday, the mighty Tampa Bay Lightning in their heyday, and now the mighty Florida Panthers in their absolute heyday. And for that reason, it's tough to have playoff success. But I do think that this was a year that if they got by those Panthers, which they damn near did closer than anyone else, I think they would have walked their way to the Stanley Cup final, no doubt. And I think they could have beat, from what I saw in those last 2-3 games, I think they could beat the Edmonton Oilers in a 7-game series. So people can poo-poo that, but I think that's a pretty fair take.
No poo-poo from me, buddy. I tend to agree with you. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. So looking at the odds, they are out for next year's Stanley Cup final, or Stanley Cup. Who do you think is the odds-on favorite right now to win the Stanley Cup? This is kind of egregious to me.
For next year?
Carolina and Edmonton at plus 700. For some reason, the Canes, who can't win a conference final game, have the shortest odds at plus 700. Where I'm going with this, I like the Maple Leafs at plus 2,000. I think you won't find better value than right now in the Maple Leafs. They're obviously going to make some moves over the next couple of weeks. I think that number is going to climb to around 1,100, maybe 1,000, maybe plus 900. So I'd pounce now on a Maple Leafs future ticket.
It's always blows my mind how people want to make predictions and you don't even know who's on the team. Like, so many of these teams are going to have different personnel. It's just wild to me that people are so steadfast in their opinions on who's going to win the cup next year. And I'm like, they haven't even done the draft or the free agency or gone through camp or okay, whatever, buddy. But that's kind of surprising with Carolina. It's even to me surprising. Like, where's Florida in that mix?
Florida is right there. It's Carolina plus 700 with the Oilers. Florida's plus 750. Colorado plus 900. Dallas plus 900. Then Vegas, I like that team, plus 1,200.
Yeah, it's going to be the usual suspects. I don't think anyone's going to be drastically different. I'm really going to watch intently on what happens here with the Florida Panthers as they have 3 studs in Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad. It was weird hearing Tkachuk too at the end going, oh man, I've been telling these guys, you chase the money, you get as much as you can possibly get. I'm a players guy, not a team. I'm like, what is he like? Maybe I missed the
voice
of
reason in the NHL. Brad Marchand and Matthew Tkachuk, man. You heard it here first.
Jesus, I was like, it would be. It's hard, man. And again, I should crunch the numbers, the official numbers on $8 million in Florida. How much do you have to pay that man to play in Toronto and live in Toronto and all the taxes and everything else to get the same net amount of money? And it would be a lot. And when you talk about a guy like that saying, I just won the Conn Smythe, I just exploded, I just proved my worth, I'm going to sign a contract that was probably in my wildest dreams, back when I was in Calgary and kind of on the third line or whatever was going on. Yeah. You kind of, it's hard to pass that up for anybody. I don't care who you are or what the parameters of the money are, to a person who's about to get an exorbitant amount of money put on their salary. It's hard to turn that down. But for him, I think he's going to stay in Florida because he's going to crunch those numbers and say, well, I could literally get I don't even know if it's like is $8 million in Florida like 10.2 in Toronto? Why would he leave such a good thing for that? It just, I don't, and then all the pressure that would come and being overpaid. I see if anyone's going to take a haircut or a hometown discount, a player for the Florida Panthers is going to do that.
It's exactly it. I think they have so much leverage. And I know Bill Zito, I know he's probably having a couple drinks last night, but said there's a way to keep all three of these guys. Imagine they come back and it's Bennett's there, Marchand's there, Ekblad's back. And it's here we go again. And we're having the same conversation in about 335 days, round 2, the Leafs and the Florida Panthers. Here we go. I thought it was curious to find out that according to Bet365, the Tampa Bay Lightning have better odds right now to win the Stanley Cup than the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're at plus 1,600. The Leafs have plus 2,000. I don't even think Tampa's in Toronto's yard. I think the Maple Leafs are such a better team than Tampa, and they would beat them in a series, and still think that way. Even I don't care who they sign here. But anyways.
And how about Tkachuk saying their toughest opponent was Tampa? They fucking smoked Tampa.
I made that mistake too. I heard that you have to hear the whole quote because he talks about coming back from his injury. It was coming back from his injury. He felt the first series is going to be the hardest. So it was taken out of context, and a lot of people took it out of context. Yeah.
As we know can happen at times. Fair enough, because I thought that was kind of like another one of his troll jobs saying something wild, but there's not a chance Tampa gave them a tougher run than Toronto did.
No, good stuff today, Rosie. The offseason officially here. The Florida Panthers repeat as Stanley Cup champions. Thank you to Spencer Carbery for dropping by today's show. So insightful. If you have a chance and you missed the interview, go back and check it out. We'll have it in podcast form. Also here on YouTube at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Coming up tomorrow, the offseason underway. But Anna Dua of Sportsnet's going to drop by the show tomorrow, Rosie.
Anna Dua, I thought I remembered interviewing her, and you said we haven't had her. We must have in year 1 of this pod.
Amnesia. I don't remember year 1 because we were pigeons in year 1. We're actually something now. So
sometimes when I go to our page and some of the top videos are stuff from when I'm sitting in a different set with no lights, I'm what are we doing? Let's just delete that shit, boy. But it also shows our growth, doesn't it?
Yes, growth, a big word. And unfortunately, I was watching all the post-game remarks from Edmonton, and just so many learning lessons were being discussed. I turned my TV off and I called it a night, and I turned on Love Island. So we're going to leave you with that. Anna do it tomorrow. More Leafs conversation. Thank you to producer Vic, and thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys are great. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Peace out, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.